everyone, welcome back for a little TLC. So I remember a couple of years ago I watched a movie called The Shack, and in that movie the main character was really going through a lot, but he believed in God and he called God Papa. But when he finally had the opportunity to meet God, God was a woman, and an African American woman at that. March is Women's History Month, so it seems like as good of a time as any to kind of ask this question: did The Shack have things right? Were they on the right track? Is God a woman? Let's get into it. All right, so I don't want y'all to think that I'm some great theologian and I come up with these deep philosophical questions. I literally was just thinking the other day about how if we are all created in God's image, what part of the Trinity looks like me? Is there a feminine part of God that would embody womanhood? There has to be, right? And I think this is a question that a lot of people think of because I was on a YouTube video like a couple of weeks ago, and the pastor was like preaching or talking or whatever, and someone put in the comments, where was woman when God was creating the earth? And the preacher kind of just scrolled by and was like, don't know what you're talking about. But I think it's a valid question. If we are created in God's image, is there a female part of God? Is God a woman? So the more that I think about it, the more I really think this boils down to two main things. Like, why is God frequently portrayed as a man or given male pronouns? And I think number one is because we live in a patriarchal society. The people who put together the complete Bible, the first written complete Bible, believed in male leadership, they believed in male rule, and even back then women were considered to be property. And so it's not surprising that those folks would ascribe a male pronoun to God. And patriarchy still continues to be the world that we operate in, or at least in America, this is a patriarchal society. So it's not surprising that that has continued. And part of me even wonders if we would continue to take God seriously, if anyone would have taken God seriously, if God would have been portrayed as a woman. I'm thinking about the movie The Shack, and one of the main criticisms was that God was portrayed as a woman. And so I can't even imagine if Christianity would have gone as far as it did if people were saying that you're praying to a female God, considering how females were viewed back in that time, and sometimes how women are viewed even in today's time. So that's the first thing. We live in a patriarchal society. And the second thing is, I think that gender classifications of God are literally for us. Like, it's for humans. We put things in two different boxes. That's just how our brains work. I was reading a CSB apologetics Bible not too long ago, and they went into this long dissertation about how God is neither male nor female. God is a spirit, blah, blah, blah. And it was probably like a page or two of them talking about how God is a spirit and is neither male nor female. And then the very next sentence after they said all that was, and he is. And I was just like, I just want to throw the whole book across the room, because you're basically contradicting yourself. But that's how our human brains work. We have to be one or the other. And so again, it's not surprising, based on how we need to have gender compartmentalizations, that we would ascribe a male pronoun to God. Don't get me wrong, I do not think that any of us are going to go to hell for ascribing a pronoun to God, and for most of us that would be a male pronoun. And even Jesus referred to God as his Father. But I do want us to get out of the habit of putting God into a box. Does God's gender really matter, so long as he continues to protect us and provide for us? Does God's gender really matter, so long as she continues to lead, guide, and direct us? Does God's gender really matter, so long as they continue to have a way for our salvation, and our salvation is secure? I don't know about y'all, but when time for heaven comes, I'm not going to be checking up underneath the robe of God or whatever God has on to check and see what parts they are working with. That actually sounds like quite silly, but I think that that's what we're doing when we make a big deal out of, is God man, is God woman? It really doesn't matter, so long as we continue to be taken care of, so long as we believe and have faith in God, and we have a way for our salvation paid for us. yeah, I just don't think that I'll ever get so caught up in what God looks like that I miss the opportunity to worship. And I highly doubt I'll ever be able to wrap my mind around God anyway. So, yeah, does God's gender really matter? I don't think so, but I believe that God can be all things for all people. I believe that God can be a father. I believe that God can be a mother. And I believe that I can find myself in all of my femininity in God just as much as I can find masculine characteristics in God as well. So, that's what I got. Let me know what y'all think about this. I'm really interested to see your comments. Does God's gender matter? Why or why not? Are you someone else who generally puts a male pronoun on God? Why or why not? I think I'm also interested in knowing if you think that for some people, referring to God as a male might actually be detrimental or even turn them off from Christianity. Yeah, let me know what y'all think. I look forward to seeing your comments, and I will see y'all next week for a little TLC. All right, bye-bye.